Last week we started Incoterms, and today we'll continue from there. We talk about what is Incoterm and why Incoterm is so important in international trade operations, right? And it's actually the main point in international trade operations between the buyer and the seller. How who should do what, the actions. Everything will be determined by this three-letter word, right? Three-letter word. Small abbreviations like XWORK, EXW, CIF, FOB, CFR, CPT, CIP, right? Uh, there are a lot they can do and lot we can. We just mentioned that three-letter word, EXW. Then from there, what are the obligations of buyer? What are the obligations of seller? What are the obligations of uh, other parties? Everything is listed. So that is why all those things have been listed in Incoterm 2020. I told you it is revised every 10 years, and the latest revision is Incoterms 2020. Right? Uh, we discussed up to this place. Today we'll start. Have we discussed X-work last week? Yes or no? Have we discussed X-work?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Then we start from X-work. There are how many Incoterms are there? How many Incoterms are there in 2020? How many?
11.
Huh? 7.
11.
11. 11 Incoterms. 11 Incoterms are there, right? Uh, can can you repeat them uh, with your memory? Can all join and then support? One can start, then the others can support.
DAP,
DAP, okay,
CIP, CPT,
okay.
DPU,
DPU, then
CIF, CFR,
CIF, CIF, CFR, very good.
FOB, FAS,
Uh, then
FCA,
FCA, very good.
DDP,
DDP की बने थे DDP.
EXW, FCA.
हम බල බල හිටියා මේ EXW කියලාද නැද්ද කියලා මේ ගොඩ පිටින් මෙතන තියෙනවා. ඒක තියලා අනිත් ඔක්කොම කිව්වා. Right. Okay. Thank you. So there are 11 Incoterms. We'll start with X work. Right. First, we'll understand what is X work. X work is deliver the goods at the disposal of the buyer at the named place. That named place is either seller's works, like X work, seller's work, or warehouse, factory, or stores, whatever. Right? The seller will prepare the goods, they will manufacture the goods, and they'll keep the goods in the warehouse or factory premises at seller's risk, and up to that point, all cost has to be borne by the seller. Right? Then the buyer will come to the seller's warehouse and buy the goods. They will inspect and they will buy the goods. Later they will pay, and at that particular time, once they pay the seller at the warehouse, that's a critical point. then the risk and the ownership will be transferred from seller to the buyer. From that point onwards, it is buyer's goods and buyer's responsibility. Right? In Incoterm, there are three types of carriage. One is pre-carriage, other one is main carriage, and the last one is on carriage. What do you mean by pre-carriage? What do you mean by pre-carriage? What do you mean by pre-carriage? Now, from the seller's warehouse or factory, the goods have to travel up to the main carriage. Main carriage can be either a ship or an aircraft or something like that. All right. So that's the main carriage. That's the carriage coming from US America to Colombo. Right. But the main pre-carriage is from the warehouse or the factory of the producer, the seller. We have to first take the goods to the Colombo port. For example, if the factory is at Mayangana, they are manufacturing garments. First, we'll have to bring the garments, packed ones, right? We have to pack in export packing, and then bring the stuff to Colombo for the shipment. The trip from Mayangana to Colombo is the pre-carriage. Is it clear? If you can't understand, stop me and ask me, right? And then we load it to the ship. We have to contract the ship, and then we load it to the ship. That is the main carriage, right? That is the main carriage. Then it goes to the other side, that is buyer's country. Then the buyer's country, they'll have to go through the custom clearance and everything. After that, once it cleared, unloaded, once it cleared, then the goods will be at the port. From port, they have to take the goods to the importer's warehouse. Again, we'll have to hire a lorry or truck or whatever. So that is on carriage. So there are three types of carriage in international trade: pre-carriage, main carriage, and on carriage. Right? Now here, the seller will manufacture the goods. They'll keep it ready for the buyer to come and inspect and pay and collect the goods. Once the buyer collect the goods, right? I'll try to explain this like a story. You also have to listen to me and try to visualize what is happening. Then it is easy. Then you don't have to study these things by heart. Otherwise, in your papers, question papers, you can see all past papers. There will be one or two MCQ questions from Incoterms. And always the question number 2, 20 marks question, is on Incoterms. So in other words, Incoterms will bring you minimum 20 to 22 marks. Maybe 25, 20, 24 end up to. Right? So you can't ignore Incoterms. This is where you can score points. Right? So try to grab it, and how I'm going to describe, teach you this one is like a teledrama එකක් වගේ අපි කරමු. එතකොට ඔයගන්ට මේක නිකන් ඔළුවේ වැටෙනවා. So now you can visualize that in seller's warehouse everything is ready. Then the buyer goes there. They'll pay the money. They take the. They have to book the main carriage. The buyer has to book the main carriage, and to load it to the main carriage, first they have to take it to the main carriage. That we call pre-carriage. For that, they have to hire a local transport to take them to the custom barrier. Then they have to pay taxes, do the export clearance, and then load it to the ship. Right? Here, who has to do the pre-carriage, buyer or seller?
Buyer.
Buyer. Pre-carriage has to be done by the buyer, because seller's obligations are over once the goods are at the disposal of the buyer. Right? But sometimes in practical scenario, seller may do the pre-carriage, because otherwise buyer has to go all the way to from USA to Colombo and then do the pre-carriage. There's no sense in that, right? So they will ask the seller to do the pre-carriage. Then they will do it, but they will do it not officially, unofficially they will do it. They will say, we will do it at the risk of buyer and at the cost of buyer. All the cost and the risk buyer has to responsible. Is it clear? Right. Then they will load it to the main carriage and then go to the other side of the place, that is a destination, and unload it. Right. In that case, the carriage to be arranged by the buyer. Carriage has to sign the contract with the carrier. Sorry, carriage, not carriage. The buyer has to sign the contract. Buyer has to sign the contract with the carrier. Right? Then the risk is transferred to the buyer when the goods are placed at his disposal. Cost transferred from the seller to the buyer when the goods are at the disposal of the buyer. Okay? That's another slide I can show you. Now, in this one, the brown color shows the seller's cost. So, seller's cost will finish at this point. That's a critical point. So, that is where the risk is going to get transferred, right? Once they manufacture the goods, and then they will, their risk is over. Their cost is also over, right? From there onwards, it's the buyer's cost. So the pre-carriage has to be done by the buyer. Then the main carriage also, it has to be done by the buyer. Of course, unloading and import clearance is obvious thing, the buyer. So you have to use the common sense. That's more than enough, right? Then under expert, the seller's obligations, the questions you are going to get is they will never ask what are the 11 Incoterms. Them questions, and examiner will not ask. But examiner will ask what are the Incoterms relevant to sea and inland waterway. What are the Incoterms relevant to sea and inland waterway? Tell me.
FCA,
Uh-huh.
FCA,
FCA, okay. No, not FCA.
FAS.
FAS.
sorry,
FAS. Three alongside ship. Then
CIF, CFR,
CIF.
and FOB.
CFRN. How many?
4.
4. That's a common question here. they are asking. Or sometimes they'll ask, what are the Incoterms relevant to any mode of transport? Can somebody else? ඒදුවන මේ වෙන කෙනෙක් කියන්න බලන්න.
FCA,
FCA.
CPT,
Mm-hmm.
CIP,
Mm-hmm.
DDP,
Mm-hmm.
DPU,
DBU.
DPU,
DPU. DPU. Okay.
XWork,
Expert
and DAP.
and DA. නෑ. ඒකට වැඩි වුණාද? වැඩි වුණානේ. DAT නෑ. DAT අපි කියවනේ
DAP,
DAP, not DAT, DAP. DAT was omitted. DAT was omitted, and they introduced DPU. Right. Okay. The seller's obligations under this, or before that, I want to show you something. I think I have given you this Incoterms 2020 at a glance, and I ask you guys to take a printout and keep it with you, because I don't want you to go back and forth when you're doing studies, right? One page, get a printout and keep it with you. How many people have taken printout?
Taken, sir.
You have done?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. Like that, everybody has to keep a printout with you, right? Here you get for any mode of transportation, EXW, FCA, CPT, CIP, DPU, DAP, DDP. Then for carriage by sea and inland waterway, FAS, FOB, CFR, CIF. Everything is there. Right? Now, there's another thing called place in the Incoterm. Always, the place in the Incoterm is a must. We have to say EXW, Colombo, FCA, UK, London, CPT, New Delhi, whatever. Right? So, this place in the Incoterm is a must. Now, place in the Incoterm is also you have to memorize. How we are going to memorize that one? That's an easy way to memorize it. You can write down this, right? Because I have not given you a handout on that. You can write down place in the Incoterm. The heading is place in the Incoterm, right? All the F terms කියන එක within inverted commas දාන්න. F terms, capital F terms. All the F terms. And again, open inverted commas, EXW. All the F terms and EXW is origin. Place in the Incoterm is origin. All the others are destination. ඕක තියාගත්ත නම් ඔච්චරේන පාඩම් ගන්න තියෙන්නේ. ඔක්කොම පාඩම් ගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Right? Now you can say what are the F terms? FCA, FAS, FOB, 3 are F terms. Then and X work. Obviously X work has to be origin. එතකොට ඒ හතර විතරයි origin. All the other 7 we categorize under any mode of transport, and place in the Incoterm is destination. Place in the Incoterm is destination. Okay. Right. You can see the slide, huh? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can see, huh? Right. In නැත්තම් කියන මාව නවත්තන්න ටක් ගාලා. Seller's obligation under X verb. It says applicable to any mode of transport. X verb applicable to any mode of transport. Sellers makes the goods available for collection from warehouse at the agreed point or named place of delivery. Only first one I'm giving you all the details. After that, you should be able to grab it easily. Once the buyer collects the goods, seller's responsibility is at an end. Right? ඒකත් තේරෙනවනේ. Is it all right? Now, when we are discussing these things, sometimes some other matters, right? What I'm trying my best is to avoid you learning by heart. So when we are doing that, the certain things, is it all right? I mean, I know you people can understand Sinhala as well as English, right? But we have to write the answers in English. Don't mix up the language. But when I'm explaining, if I use certain Sinhalese words and the wordings and phrases, that will be very much easy. Right? That will be very much easy. Can you please hold on? When certain things, if I use these phrases, it will be easy for you to keep it in your mind. Is it all right if I mix the both languages?
Yes, sir.
It's okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what I want to do is to give you the best, right? අපි කියන්නේ බොක්කටම දෙනවා කියලා. අන්න ඒ වගේ දාගත්තා නම් හරි. ඕනවා. Right? Right. Then once the buyer collect the goods, seller responsibilities is at an end. The seller must, at his own expenses, provide other documents which are necessary for the delivery of the goods. They are all cost until delivery. So it's important thing, even though the seller's responsibility ends at the time when the goods are at the disposal of the buyer, the documentation has to be done by the seller. The buyer can't come all the way from America to Colombo to get the prepare the commercial invoice and all those things, right? Those things has to be done by the documentation part, has to be usual delivery documents has to be done by the seller, right? Okay. Then the buyer's response obligations. This is what the examiners will ask you. They will ask, what are the seller's obligations under X verb? Or what are the buyer's obligations under X verb? Right? That's how they will ask, and you have to answer accordingly. When they ask the buyer's responsibility, don't go and tell them about the seller's responsibility. This is what most of the students are doing. We are expecting 6 or 7 line answer. You write everything for 1 page, and when you go home, you tell your parents as well as your friends, how is the exam? Done, super. Right? I think the examiner will learn something from me. Right? I think the examiner will learn something from me. Then When the results comes, you are failed. Because examiner has asked, what are the buyer's responsibilities under X work? You have written buyer's responsibility 3 lines. Then you have started telling seller's responsibility 10 lines. Take a very easy on it. Right? Then the buyer's responsibilities pay for the goods as per the sales contract. They are all cost and risk involved in shipment transaction. Arrange to obtain all licenses, authorization as may be needed, and contract carriage and insurance. All buyers. Now, examples under X work, how we are quoting Incoterm. Somebody wants to buy fruits in Costa Rica. Buying fruits in Costa Rica. The Incoterm we will say EXW, X work, Finca La Fortuna, Heredia, Costa Rica. Incoterms 2020. What is Finca La Fortuna? Guess. මෙච්චරයි දෙන්නේ. ප්‍රොෆෝම් එකේ මෙච්චරයි දෙන්නේ. දුන්නාට පස්සේ ටික ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලා ගන්න ඕන. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ මොනවද ඒකට කියන්නේ හොරොස්කෝප් එකේ කෙලින්ම ගේන මේ කුජහත් කියලා කුජහතේ කියන ඊට පස්සේ ඉතින් එහාට මොනවද වෙන්නේ කියන එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න ඕන. right එච්චරයි. මේකේ මෙච්චරයි දෙන්නේ. Now what do you mean by Finca La Fortuna?
Place of origin.
Coffee.
Huh? Place of origin? මොකක්ද එතන නෑ.
Is it a coffee manufacturer?
Is the coffee නෙමෙයි fruits.
Fruits, okay.
right? Costa Rica කොහොම වැඩි වෙන coffee නේද? මනින් දවස් වෙනස් කරනවා. right? Finca La Fortuna is a company. Heredia is the town or the city. In Heredia, there's a company called Finca La Fortuna, and you have to go to Finca La Fortuna, buy the goods, and then in Costa Rica, that's the agreement, right? Which I can. Another one, buying goods at free trade zone. Right? X work, Shanghai free trade zone. Sony warehouse. China. China is a country. Sony warehouse. So this is Sony products. Right? This is how we have to say. And why we are saying X work, Shanghai free trade zone? We are importing from China to Colombo. Why you say X work, Shanghai free trade zone? Few minutes back I taught you. Why? Because X work is the place in the Incoterm is origin. So the origin is Shanghai free trade zone. Sony warehouse. So that is why we are putting that. Right? We are not putting Colombo here. Colombo the most thing about it. Colombo thing. Right? Okay. Then if I ask you some questions, can you tell me who is responsible for each of these activities under X work? Right? What is the place in the Incoterm? Origin or destination? Under X work.
Origin.
Origin.
Who has to manufacture the goods?
Seller.
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 Right? Who has to do the pre-carriage?
Buyer.
Hmm. Good. Who has to do the export clearance?
Buyer.
Buyer. Then who has to make the contract for carriage?
Buyer.
Buyer.
Buyer. Who has to do the loading?
Buyer.
Buyer. And who has to take the insurance cover?
Buyer.
Buyer.
Again buyer. Right? Who has to do the unloading?
Buyer.
Buyer. Import clearance?
Buyer.
Do HRM buyer? Aduh, HRM buyer. Digam buyer lagi. HRM buyer. තේරුන්නේ මං අහන එකටම බය කිව්වාගේ බය right ඔක්කොම බය. So except for manufacturing, all the other responsibilities are with the buyer, right? Are with the buyer. Then ලේසි නේද ඔක? right? ඕක තමයි මං කිව්වේ මේක පාඩම් කරනකොට මුල මේකෙන් පාඩම් කරන්න හරි ලේසි දැන් දැක්කනේ. Export clearance, buyer. Come buyer. Commercial invoice, packing list, quality certificates, preparation of documents, always seller. All the Incoterms, it's seller. Right? Natta me okkoma buyer. Right? Okay. Then we'll go to the second one, FCA, free carrier. This is, I don't know from where you are coming, but if I ask you some question, please speak up. If you know these things, then it's easy for me to give you some example. I'm always going with live examples, right? So I'm lazy. Majority of you are living in Colombo, or are they outstation people?
I'm from Kegaon, sir.
They are from Kegaon. Very good. Anybody from Nagala, Naramala? That area? Pannala?
I'm from Polgavela, sir.
You are from Polgavela. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether you people have noticed this. When you are working in a bank, when you are, we have to be always inquisitive, right? I learned all these things by observing. So you all have to do the same thing. Then it's easy. You don't have to worry about learning, right? In your area, Puta, Polgahavela, are there any, have you seen any garment factories in that area? Polgahavela. Yeah, there are garment factories. I don't know whether you have noticed. I have noticed certain things. I'm living at Athuragiri, in Athuragiri area. Arangala, එහෙම මම දැකලා තියෙනවා ඔයගේ garment factories එකක දෙක මේක වැඩි වෙනවා. Always in the night. Always in the night after 9 o'clock. You can see about fleet of containers parked on the road. Fleet of containers parked on the road. One by one go inside the factory, get it loaded, then they go. Right? Then the second one goes. The garment, normally the garments, when we are dispatching garments, when you are shipping garments, like if you are selling to Marks and Spencer, one of the top class another big sellers in the market, one of the most reputed companies, Marks and Spencer, their shirts, their trousers, their blouses, their ladies trousers, pants, and all very, very expensive. Very expensive. But those are produced and manufactured by our innocent sisters and brothers in Sri Lanka in remote areas. Right, Polgavilla. ඒගොල්ලෝ හදන ඒවා තමයි මේ යන්නේ අපි එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කරලා යවන්නේ. Do you know how these especially the ladies garments, how we shipped? Shirts, of course, we are put it into the boxes, ne? Ladies garments, your blouses, then pants, and all those things. Are you packing boxes?
They hang it and send. Hang it and send.
They hang it and
wraps.
Yeah, they hang it and send. Like if you go to a big shopping complex, right? When you visit a big shopping complex, you can see the blouses and skirts and all, they are hanging. Then only people go and search for your requirement, right? When we are exporting also, we do in hangers. We have to use the hangers. අපි නවල දාන්නේ නැහැ. Iron කරලා මේව කරලා දාන්නේ නැහැ. Especially the ladies ones. So that is why the carrier people, they will provide the hangers to the company with the all those trucks, container trucks, subcontractors of carriers, right? So when they go inside the factory, they will load it. They have the full report of each lorry, what are the things they are going to load. Each container, container 1, 2, 3, 4, right? They have the manifesto, and based on that, they will load it. They will load it. Once they load it, under the supervision of customs. There are custom officers coming from all the way from Colombo and waiting in the staying in the factory for the shipment. Right? Then whatever goes inside the container, after that they will tick all the according to the manifesto given to them. They will tick it. Then now they know. Then they will calculate the duty. They will calculate the duty. This is how it is happening. මේක මතක තියාගන්න ටෙලිග්‍රෑම් එකක් වගේ. එතකොට ඒ ටික අපිට බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් පාඩම් ගන්න එපා. Once it is loaded, then it will be closed, and they put the shipping company, the truck guys, they will put a padlock, right? They will put a padlock, and after putting the padlock, the custom people will put a seal. Custom again seal එකක් තියෙනවා. seal එක කියන්නේ අපි අර මේ hotels වලට එහෙම සමහරලාට ගියාම parties වලට ගියාම they put a rubber band to our wrist. Rubber band, plastic band on the wrist, just to identify that. Otherwise, when you go to the buffet table, they will ask for the ticket again. So to avoid that, or if you go to the bar to get a drink, glass of beer, then they will ask you, okay, can you produce a ticket? But when you have the band, then it is understood, right? So likewise, මේකත් නිකන් ඒ වගේ නෙමෙයි. in a thick band එකක් ඒක දාලා ඒක lock කරනවා. After it locked, nobody can open it. You have to cut it and open, right? Then the customs of the other country has to cut it. If somebody has cut it and done some jugglery, then you are going to have it. That they know, right? So they will close it. They will put a custom seal. Then the goods will be taken to where? From Polgahavila, it will be taken to where? Again, common sense question. Now it is in the container. The container load කරන තියෙන්නේ. ඒක කොහාට දාන්නේ?
Colombo.
To port.
කොළඹ තමයි.
To port.
To port.
Custom
No.
put. Custom.
No. If it is container, කොළඹ ඉන්න කට්ටිය ඉන්නවද? Who are working, who are staying in.
They go to a yard in Colombo. From there, it's been shipped.
Yes, they take all those things to a yard. What is that yard called? Container.
Warehouse.
Container, not warehouse. Container yard. ඒක warehouse එකක් නෙමෙයිනේ. open නේ තියෙන්නේ. කොහෙද අපේ කොළඹ container yard එක තියෙන්නේ? Where is it? පාරේ යනකොට ඇහැ අරගෙන යනවා. Orugudavatta container yard. It will be taken to Orugudavatta container yard, from Polgahavi to Orugudavatta container yard, and it will be stored there. Right? Place it, and then the lorry will go out. ඉවරයි. ඒක දැම්මා, ඒක unload කරලා එතනට තිබ්බා, තියලා යනවා. Right? Then the buyer has to contract the ship or the vessel, contract the carrier, and then they will inform the shipping company that they have booked this ship to send these containers to USA or UK, and then what they will do is they will load they will take when the ship has come Colombo port and it's ready to accept the goods, then only the carrier company will bring the containers to the port and load it. Right? Do they have to go through the customs and pay export clearance? I didn't mention that. Why? Why they have not gone through the customs or pay custom duty? Even if we are looking at the container. Think.
Because the governments are from a free trade zone.
No. මුල අමතක කළා මේ පොඩ්ඩක් කලින් කීප එක.
You said that custom guys put a seal on the
There you are. When we are loading to the container, custom guys are there. They check the stuff and they charge the seller. Export clearance will be charged. Right? ඒ ඔක්කොම කරලා ඉවරයි. දැන් ඉතින් ඉවරයි. දැන් වෙන I custom then seal it කරලා ඉවරයි. That's end of it. Right? That is why it is not going back to the port. From there straight away අතන ඇවිල්ලා temporary halt එකක් විතරයි. Container yard එක. From there, according to the availability of the ship, they will take it. It will be taken to the ship and sailed to USA or UK, and that is how it is happening. When the place of delivery is an inland point, Incoterms 2020 allows the buyer to instruct the carrier to issue bill of lading with an onboard notation. It is an optional mechanism. This was introduced in 2020. Earlier it was not there. Now what they say is who will book the carrier? The buyer. When the buyer books the carrier, seller is not bothered about the BL. Seller is not bothered about the BL. Under FCA earlier we don't have to provide a BL. Anyway, BL sellerගේ document එක තමයි custom මේව දාලා ඒ ටික ඉවර කළා. But now under 2020 Incoterm, what they say is if the seller wants or if the buyer wants a BL, then when the buyer has, even though the buyer has contracted for the freight and the carrier, when the carrier issues the BL, the seller will collect it from port and submit all documents along with other documents to his bank, seller's bank, to be sent to buyer's bank, right? So always this is an optional mechanism. It is not a must to get the BL, right? The dates of delivery, because the okay, for example, from Polgahavela we have we have loaded on 1st of August and sent the goods in the container to container yard at Oruguduwatta on 2nd of August morning. 2nd of August morning, we had a few hours. Then, by the time we get a container ship, right? Load it, it will be on 20th August. So there's a big difference between the 1st and 20th. Right? So, which may create a difficulty for the seller under the LC. Right? So those things are there. But this is how FCA operates. Right? Here you can see earlier one, only the seller, we stopped at the seller. Now here, seller will first do it, load it. First load again the seller again. Right? Then seller's obligations are there up to the container yard at Oruguduwatta. If it is Colombo, UK will be a container again. That is buyer is Sri Lanka, seller is UK, London. Uruguduwatta container yard kela. Right from London, him leave got him at a mom kiwana me container Uruguduwatta container yard kela. They go to the enang kilimagina. The seller is sending from Newcastle. They are sending the goods to the Uruguduwatta container yard before shipment to Colombo. Viru nemeya, the Hinayana monkey, Burut neme, Ogulu Leneva. Ogulu Leneva, right? Take among very explain Karatapasi, sir, you and Uruguduwatta again. Look at what container, they go to Uruguduwatta, right? Then in the brown color, you get at seller's cost. Then you get the transfer of risk at that particular point. This is how it is happening. Right? Okay. Seller's obligations, the FCA. Seller will provide the goods, deliver them to the carrier or any persons nominated by the carrier at a named place. Till then, seller bears all risk. Put the goods in good packing. That's very important. Obtain security clearance and other formalities for export of goods at their cost and risk. Right? The seller has no obligations to buy insurance to cover loss or damage to the goods. So the insurance has to be done by the buyer. Right? Delivery is completed when the goods are placed at the disposal of the carrier. However, before the loading of the goods on board the vessel. Insurance part Incoterm 2020 they have repeatedly mentioned that, right, it is not the responsibility of either the seller or buyer to get the insurance. Then whose responsibility? Responsibility given buyer, because if something goes wrong, he won't be able to claim on the goods. So that is why they are very keen and they are asking, even though the seller has to spend some money, they don't mind, they will pay it and do the insurance, right? Okay. Buyer's obligations under FCA, all risk of loss damage from the time or end of the period agreed for delivery. Carriage, contract the carriage from the place of delivery unless agreed with the seller. Unless agreed with the seller. What do you mean by that? Sometimes the buyer will, even though it is his job to contract with carriage, right? He will request the seller, please do it for me, I will pay. Then they will do anything for a price, right? That's the obvious thing. The insurance, no obligation. However, the general practice is buyer to insure the goods. That's a general practice. Delivery and transport documents, except the proof of delivery. If agreed, the buyer must instruct the carrier to issue a transport document. Right? Then export-import clearance, assist with export clearance. The buyer will assist with export clearance in case. Otherwise, export clearance will be done by the seller. Import clearance, of course, it's buyer's responsibility. Right? FCA significant changes in 2020 is this onboard BL matter I told you. It's an optional thing. And under the F terms, the place in the Incoterm is origin. But buyer hires the main carrier and freight forwarder. The seller does not control the shipment under F terms. Therefore, freight forwarder and carrier has no obligations to seller. Right? Seller does not control the shipment under F terms. Therefore, freight forwarder and carrier has no obligation to sell. Right? Right. Now tell me under FCA, what is the place in the Incoterm? Destination or origin?
Origin.
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 Origin. You say origin? Why you say origin? What origin can you? Come on. Uncle Katapadan can be
It is an F term.
It's a F term. Look at that. Right? We make it under the F terms, the place in the Incoterm is origin. Ni ani lamai. ඔක්කොම ටික හදලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් මට ඉතින් අර පොඩි උන්ට වගේ බෝතල එක දාලා පොවන්න බෑ. දැන් ලොකු ළමයිනේ. අන්න කිරේක හැදුවා බොනවා නම් බොන්න නැත්තම් ඕන කැමලක් කියලා නිකන්. ඒ වගේ තමයි කරන්නේ. උදේට අපිට ගෙදරින් තේදින්නෙත් එහෙම නේද? ඔන්න තේක හදලා මේ සුදු තියෙනවා. කැමති නම් බොන එකයි නැත්තම් නිකන් එකයි. එහෙම නේද පුතේ ඔයගලන්ට දෙන්නේ? මම නම් හම්බෙන්නේ මේ වගේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ. හරිද? ඒ වගේ තමයි ඔයගලන්ට හම්බෙන්නේ. අම්මලට මේ බෑ. මේ 10 දෙනෙක්ගේ පස්සෙන් යන්නේ. හදලා දෙනවා. ඒක බොන එක ඔයගලන්ගේ වැඩ. ඒ වගේ තමයි මම කියනවා. උඩට ගන්න එක ඔයගලන්ගේ වැඩ. Then export clearance who has to do?
Seller has to do.
Seller. Very good. Very good. Then contract for carriage, main carriage.
Buyer.
Buyer.
Loading.
Buyer.
Loading buyer. Then insurance.
No obligation, but lies with the buyer.
Yes. Good answer. Then unloading.
Buyer.
Buyer. Right. Import clearance. Also buyer.
Buyer.
Okay. But FCA is mainly for containerized cargo. FCA mainly for containerized cargo. Then FAS, free alongside ship. Is it under any mode of transport or carriage by sea and inland waterway?
Carried by sea and waterway.
Carriage by sea and inland waterway. That's a free alongside ship. Plane එක ඇවිල්ලා මේ මුදනාව කළා තියන්නේ නැහැ නේ. Right? Okay. Then again FS places origin, right? A origin එක ආවම name port of shipment. Name port of shipment. This term is specifically used for carriage of goods by sea. Right? Exporter's contractual obligation is to deliver the packed goods alongside the vessel named by the importer at named port. Right? Importer is responsible for insurance, loading and unloading, transporting the goods from alongside the vessel. When the goods are in containers, the seller has to hand the goods over to the carrier at a terminal and not alongside the vessel. Hence, FCA rule is more appropriate. What do you mean by that? If it is containerized cargo, it is more appropriate to use the FCA rule. Why? Can somebody tell me why? Hitan. Hitan. Why? Why? Why it is not appropriate? FAS for containerized cargo. Again, common sense. Natural keep stories take common sense. Right? Hence, because if it is FAS, we have to take the goods alongside the ships. We have to take the container alongside the ship. Can we do that? No. Right? So then from 1st of August till 20th August, till the buyer organizes a ship, we'll have to keep the containers at our yard. We are not doing that. Once you load the goods, it is given to the carrier. So carrier will keep the goods in their container yards, that is at Orkuduvat. Right? If you they will, the port will not allow them to keep the containers in the jetty. When the ship is ready, they will pick the container and hand it over to the ship. ඒකයි අර FAS එක හරියන්නේ නැත්තේ. Right. Do you know this has happened? I'll give you a nice story. In 2006 or 2007, there was a tsunami situation at Japan. Nagoya is their industrial area. All the vehicle companies are there. Nagoya. Right? Toyota, Ford, Suzuki. Companies in Nagoya. Right? Then, during that period, tsunami period, there were some certain containers were washed over to the sea. Those were washed to sea. Container පිටින් වතුරට වැටෙන එක ගහගෙන එන ගහන්න දෙයක් නෙමෙයිනේ. You must have seen the photographs or you must have some experience during our tsunami. At Paralia, the entire train was destroyed. මතකනේ වතුර පාට train එකම destroyed. Container එකම නේද? Containers එක මුදේ. Then they claim insurance. Right? Then they claim insurance. You know what had happened? The insurance guy refused to pay the insurance. Then these people have used the wrong Incoterm. Just imagine how important this Incoterm. They said the buyer has to contract the carriage. The carrier will, or the ship is yet to reach Nagoya port, but these people were keeping the containers at the port. Right? So actually, until they are ready for loading, it has to be in the container yard. ඉතින් දැන් තමයි ගේන්න ඕනේ. මෙතන අතක තියලා. මේගොල්ලෝ කොහොමද ගවන්න බෑ කියලා. Just imagine using the wrong Incoterm, what's the cost these people have to incur. Right? FAS, now little by little, the seller's cost will be shifting from left to right. Right? Now up to the alongside ship, it is all seller's cost. Right? Very good balance, Examples: buying a boat with pickup on 10th March before noon in Kodam 2020. Right? Without අපි ඉන්කොටම් එක දාන්න කොහොමද දන්නවද? FAS 3 alongside ship. Pier 10, Port of Miami, Florida. What is Pier 10, Port of Miami, Florida? Pier 10 is the jetty. Now here we have Pier 1, Pier 2, Pier 3 की අපේ කොළඹ port එකේදී පොගේ දවස් 5 තිබුණේ. Pier 3 the Pier 4 there. Right? ඒ වගේ you have to mention the pier. Buying machine to corrugated boxes in different section parts, non-containerized. Previous one also non-containerized. Then FAS, Dreaman Pier 2, Incoterms 2020. Right? That's how mentioned. And මේව දෙන්නේ නැහැ. This for additional information. Now under FAs, tell me, export clearance by whom? Export clearance, FAs. Quickly, I want to finish this today. Seller. Then contract for carriage. Contract for carriage.
Buyer.
Buyer. Contract for carriage, buyer. Then loading.
Seller.
Seller. What is the seller's obligation? What is the seller's obligation? To keep the goods alongside the ship. එතින් එහාට දෙන්නේ ඉවරයි. ඒ මිනිහට දැන් යන්න දෙන්න. තාමත් සෙලව කරගහගෙන ඉන්න එපා. එතින් ඉවරයි. You got that point? අපතේ දැන් සෙලට යන්න දෙන්න. දැන් ඉවරයි. සෙල වට්ටුවේ ගාලා තිබ්බා ship එක ගාවේ. After that, he has washed his hands. Finish. Then who is responsible? Loading. Buyer. ඔගොල්ලෝ මේ හිතන්න මේක නිකන් ස්ටෝරියක් වගේ. එතකොට හරි ලේසි. Free alongside ship. Ship එක ගානේ තිබ්බා. ඊට පස්සේ දෙයිනේ කියලා ගෙදර එක තියෙන්නේ. එයාගේ වැඩේ ඉවරයි. ඊට පස්සේ බයගේ වැඩේ. Then insurance. Who has to take the insurance?
Buyer.
Buyer. Unloading?
Buyer.
Buyer. Very good. Right? Then FOB is a combat one. FOB can have combat. That is also by for carriages by sea and Indian waterway. Right? Free on board. Free on board. Seller's primary duty, deliver the goods on board. What do you mean by on board? What do you mean by on board? Nave Thattud. On board of the ship. Nave Thattud. Provide export clearance. Export, obtaining export license, pay export taxes and fees if required. Everything has to be done by the seller. Now again, just visualize. Seller's obligations will be over when the goods are placed on board. When the goods are placed on board. එහෙනම් එතෙන්ට එනකම් දෙන්නේ ඔක්කොම ටික එයා කරගහන්න ඕන නේද? That's in simple. එතෙන්ට එනකම් ඔක්කොම ටික එයා කරගහන්න ඕන. ඉතින් මේක අහන්නම දෙයක් නැහැ. Export clearance සෙල්ලම තමයි වෙන්නේ. Then provide clean on board BL. The seller. Hey, on board BL. දාලානේ තියෙන්නේ. රෝලක් කරන්නේ. Loading. That's also his obligation. He can't place the goods on board if he's not loading. Again, it's logic, simple logic, right? Then buyer's primary duty is to nominate the carrier, contract for carriage and the pay freight, and pay unloading cost, and obviously the insurance. Insurance is a must by the buyer. Now here, unlike X work and all, now the seller's obligations and responsibilities are moving further, right? Now, up to the main carriage and up to the loading or keeping the goods on the on deck, it will be at seller's risk and seller's cost, right? Carriage has to be arranged by the buyer. Risk transferred to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. Cost transferred from the seller to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. Right? When I go on board and come ground nila. Earlier it was alongside the ship, then on board. The FOB term is used for carriage of goods by sea. Exporter's contractual obligation is to deliver the goods packed in usual manner on board the vessel named by the importer at the name port. They will load the goods, but the carrier has to be nominated and agreed by the buyer. The seller has no obligation to the buyer to make a contract of carriage or insurance, but these guys agreed, then they will do it. But normally, it is the responsibility of the buyer to make a contract of carriage and insurance. Right? FOB may not be appropriate where goods are handed over to the carrier before they are on board the vessel. Right? Goods in containers. If the goods are in containers, it's containerized cargo. Again, I'm telling you, don't use FOB. It's wrong. It has to be FCA. FCA rule should be used. Right? FOB is not suitable. But I have seen a lot of banks, so-called trade experts, right? When the customer wants, the customer doesn't know anything about Incoterm details and all those things. They will tell you to open the LC under FOB for containerized cargo. So you as the bank has to inform them, right? You as the bank has to inform them. No, this is wrong. If it is containerized cargo, you have to use FCA. Right? Ogolo inform nokalaya කියලා වරද්දක් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි you have as a prudent bank, you have an obligation to advise a customer. Right? Okay. Now FOB, tell me, what is the place in the Incoterm? FOB. Origin or destination? Origin. Then pre-carriage? Seller. Custom clearance?
Seller.
Then contract for carriage?
Buyer.
Contract for carriage buyer. Very good. Very good. Then loading? Buyer. Seller. Loading seller. Then insurance?
Buyer.
Good. Then unloading?
Buyer.
Uncarriage?
Buyer.
I am 100% sure if the examiner asks you about this obligations under FOB, buyer's obligation under FOB, now you are in a better position to answer. Right? කටපාඩම් කරලා නෙමෙයි, දැන් ටෙලිග්‍රෑම් එක මෙමරයිස් කරගෙන. right? CFR, cost and freight. CFR, cost and freight. Here, we go one step further from the FOB. One step further. What is that step? It is much similar to FOB, but one step further. That we do the contract of carriage and paying the carriage. Transport charges will be borne by the seller at seller's cost, right? Otherwise, everything is there. Then buyer's duty is to provide import clearance and unloading and arrange who has to arrange the insurance? Whether buyer or seller?
Buyer.
Buyer has to arrange the insurance, right? Right. For them on හැපැත්තේ තව පොඩ්ඩක් on board එකෙන් ඇවිල්ලා FOB එකේ another step on arrival එතනට නැගම දැන් කාගේ cost එකටද යන්නේ seller cost එකට, right? But insurance of course buyer's cost. CFR, name port of destination. This term is specially used for carriage of goods by sea. Exporter fulfills his contractual obligations when he delivers the goods packed in usual manner on board the vessel at the port of shipment. Right? The seller must contract for and pay the cost and freight necessary to bring the goods to named port of destination. Insurance is an obligation of the importer. CFR also may not be appropriate for containerized cargo. CFR gandapa containerized cargo. If it is containerized cargo, CPT rule should be used. If it is containerized cargo, CPT rule should be used. Carriage paid to. Right?
So, sorry
Yeah.
for disturbing. What
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a small question?
Yeah.
So, what is the issue when using what do you say FOB Incoterm when it comes to containerized cargo? I couldn't follow that.
You couldn't follow
You said,
that.
yeah, you
Right.
said not to use, not to advise customers to use FOB when on
Right. Okay.
containerized cargo.
Okay. Can I have your name, Kuda?
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
Can I have your name?
Yeah, I'm Erandika.
Erandika, now tell me, Erandika, when we load it to the container, right? Then once we close the container and sealed it, right?
Right. Okay.
Who will supply the container to the seller? Who will supply the container to the seller? Well, on the question I gave away. Make Anita ahan natu. Ekada Muhammad tissama kiyanne. If you have any questions, ask. Don't be ashamed. If you feel ashamed, then you even the others must be having the same question, but they are reluctant to ask. Right? On the panna minister, neither. Api ahan nona harita mahanaka. When we load it to the container, who supply the containers to the seller? Who supplies the containers? Seller ke containers nani. It is the carrier is the one who supplies the container. The carrier.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Lloyd shipping. McLaren shipping. McLaren shipping. APL, American Personal Line. That's a carrier. APL. APL is a carrier. So APL agent in Sri Lanka is McLaren's. American Personal Line. The agent is who McLarens. So the McLarens, when the company says, okay, I have a container to this thing, they will supply you the container as well as the hangers, everything. Right?
Okay.
Then you load it and you checked it and everything done. After that, once you seal the thing, the carrier will take over the responsibility. They will transport it to the container yard. Still, the APL ship is yet to reach Colombo, but we do it beforehand. Right? Now the goods are ready for shipment. Right? Can me selling පැත්තෙන් ඉවරයි. Duty දියලා ඔක්කොම කරලා ඉවරයි. Now containers are waiting at the container yard. When the ship comes, we have to load it. They will the McLarens as the agent, local agent, they will arrange the container to carry the container to the ship, and they load it and done. Right? After that, they will also, this agent's part is finished. Now the APL will take the goods to the destination. Is it clear? Right?
Yes, sir.
Now the thing is, if it is FOB, free on board, then the seller's contractual obligation under FOB is to take the goods and load it on board the vessel. On board the vessel. අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑ නේද? තාම APL ship එක ඇවිල්ලා අපිට මුකුත් කරගන්න බෑ. මේක container එක ගිහලා ගිය ගමන් අපිට හරන්න බෑ නේද? That is why we are not using, we are asking not to use FOB. It as well use FCA. It's clear?
Right. Thank
Because
you. Right.
under FOB, the contractual obligation is to place the goods on the deck. ඒක කරන්න බෑ අපිට. Right? Okay.
Right. Thank you.
ඔයගේ FOB එහෙනම් ලොට් එකක් තිබුණා අර නගෝයවල. So if I can remember, about 180 containers were washed. Got කියවට හම්බුන්නේ. වැරදි input and use කරලා. Right? Okay. Thank you very much for the question, because those are the things we have to clear. Then cost insurance and freight. CIF. Same as CFR, only one step further. What is that? Even the insurance is done by the seller. Cost, insurance, and freight. Let me chart එක පේනවනේ. Seller's cost plus insurance. Right? I don't have to explain everything. Huh? These are recorded. It is there in the system. You can read. And on top of that, I hope everything has gone into your head. Right? Make then ticket I had a shift fee. CIF, but this is one of the most important one. CIF questions in it. This term is specially used for carriage of goods by sea. A popular organ CIF export fulfill his obligations, contractual obligations, when he delivers the goods packed in usual manner on board the vessel at the port of shipment. And he is also responsible for transportation, that is contract with the carriage, and the insurance of the goods. Everything by the seller, right? The seller should contract for insurance against the buyer's risk of loss of or damage to the goods during the carriage. Typing only under CIF, the seller is required to obtain insurance only on minimum cover. Right? I told you insurance is also, there are 3 types of insurance. Cargo clause A, cargo clause B, cargo clause C. Cargo clause A is all risk covered. full comprehensive. Cargo clause B is there are certain perils covered, less than cargo clause A. C is like what we are taking for third party insurance. අපේ වාහනේ පාර දුවන third party අරගත්තට දුවන්න පුළුවන් නේද? Third party insurance දෙකට දුවන්න පුළුවන්. Right? It is like third party. Right? Very limited cover. So under CIF, if the buyer is ready, we can take even the C. We never advise the customers, buyers to get agreed to that. You can do it if the shipment is coming from Cochin. If the shipment is coming from Cochin, South India, to Colombo port. 1.5 days. 1.5 days, right? Maximum 1.5 days. Then, if the buyer is ready to take the risk, they can go for cargo clause C. But if the goods are coming from USA to Colombo, 21 days, 20 to 21 days, don't go for C. We need full cover. Ship Atlantic Ocean ගෙරෙන්නත් පුළුවන්, like Titanic. Somalian guerrillas ගහලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Ship එක. Right? We have to insure all those things. All those perils we have to insure. Right? CIF may not be appropriate for goods in containers, again, which are typically delivered at a terminal. So in such circumstances, CIP rule should be used. If it is CIF, containerized cargo, better to use CIP rule. Because CIP rule is for any mode of transport, even containerized cargo or shipment of air shipment එකක් තියෙනවා නම් aircraft that contains something, they use CIP. Right? PPT, carriage paid to. This term could be used for any mode of carriage. Right? Exporter fulfills his contractual obligations when he delivers the goods packed in usual manner to the carrier at an agreed place. The මේව ගොඩක් වෙන්නේ මේ continental transportation. Seller must contact for and pay the cost of carriage. It has to be paid by the seller. Insurance paid by the seller. Right? Okay. මම CIF එකේ අර questions එක අහගෙන ගියොත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ටක් ගාලා answer කරන්න බලන්න. Export clearance by whom? CIF.
Seller.
Then loading.
Seller.
Contract of carriage.
Seller.
Insurance.
Sorry.
Then export duty.
Seller.
හොඳයි මම හිතුවා රටෝ ගියාලා බය කියලා. ඒ මම අල්ලලා නැහැ. Unloading.
Bye.
Right. Okay. And under CPT, export clearance.
Seller.
Very good. Then contract for carriage.
Seller.
Loading.
Seller.
Insurance.
Seller.
Insurance also seller. Right. Unloading. Unloading මෙයා යනවා ඇමරිකාවෙන් නම් ලංකාවට unload කරලා දීලා යනවා.
Johnson.
හරි සර්. ඔයාව ඕගොල්ලන්ව යවන්න ඕන මේ අර මේ සිරස ලක්ෂපතියකට. ෆස්ට් රවුන්ඩ් එකේම එනවා ගෙදර. ටක් ගාලා කලබල වෙනවා. රයිට්? ඕකේ. හරි ඕකේ. මම අහනකොට ප්‍රශ්න මම පටලවලා අහන්න. එතකොට අහු වෙනවා. රයිට්. CIP, carriage and insurance paid to. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
So all of a sudden, everybody went into mute. මං හිතුවා මොන හරි වුණාද කියලා ඒ පැත්තේ. Right. CIP, carriage and insurance paid to. This term can be used for any mode of carriage. Right? අර වගේම exporter කරනවා. මේකේ එකම දෙයක් තියෙනවා. That was introduced in මේක අහන්න පුළුවන් question එකක් ඔයගලන්ගේ. ඔයගලන්ගේ අහන්න පුළුවන් question එකක් තමයි what are the main changes introduced in Incoterm 2020? What are the main changes introduced by Incoterm 2020? Right. One is they have omitted DAT, deleted, introduced DPU, right? Then this one is also a new addition. Under CIP, the insurance, the cargo insurance should be under clause A. Cargo insurance should be under clause A. Right? What about the කරන්නේ? ඔයකත් මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. Right? Right. CIP කියන්න ටික export clearance. Export clearance. Seller. Contract for carriage.
Seller.
Seller. Then loading.
Seller.
Insurance.
Seller.
Unloading and import clearance by the buyer. When you go home, once you print the chart, just try to compare any mode of carriage versus carriage by sea and inland waterways. You will see CIP is typically a mirror image of CIF. ඔයගේ හදාගත්තාම මේවා පාඩම් ගන්න දින එකයි. මේ easy method ඕගොල්ලෝම හදාගන්න. Easy methods ඕගොල්ලෝම හදාගන්න. DPU, a new one. Delivered at place, unloaded. Delivered at place, unloaded. In DPU, delivery at place, the seller is responsible for moving the goods from origin until their delivery at the disposal place. Agreed. Until it goes to the disposal place and unloaded at destination. They have to unload it. Normally, other Incoterms, everything will be unloaded by, then that can be unloaded by buyer. Here, the seller has to unload it. Right? The seller is responsible for contract of carriage and insurance. Okay. This term can be used for any mode of transportation. This term can be used for any mode of transportation. The seller must be confident to arrange the unloading of goods at the named place. Okay. Should the parties intend the seller not to bear the risk cost of unloading, DAP rule should be used instead. But if any party says, no, I don't want to do the unloading part, I will take the goods and I'll keep it at the destination, but not unloading. then we should not use DPU. Instead of that, we have to use DAP, delivered at place. The methanol delivered at place, unloaded. Right? Methanol delivered at place විතරයි. Unload කරගන්න එක buyer responsibility. Right? DPU might come this time for your exam because I think year one and last year one both are. We are going to have both exams together. Batches දෙකටම. එතකොට මේ පාරනේ මේ ඉන්කටම් චේන්ජ් උනේ නේද? ඉන්කටම් චේන්ජ් උනේ මේ පාරනේ. එතකොට එහෙනම් මේ questions කරගෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? දැන් මේක ටික ටික හැට යනවා. Delivered at place of destination, unloaded. Now DAP is a simple thing, right? Delivered at place විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. අර වගේමයි, only thing is they will not unload it, right? PDP is another one, the last one. Delivered, duty paid. Extra එකේ ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ buyer. Everything. Here, DDP, everything by the seller. Right? This term signifies maximum obligations to the exporter and the minimum obligations by the importer. The buyer has only to receive the goods and arrange the payment. This could be used for any mode of carriage. Venavaya Kenava, but according to the statistics, the percentage of DDP, transportation under DDP is almost zero. I thought they are going to take this out and ලංකාවේ වෙන්නේම නැති එකක්. හැබැයි අපේ examinersලා අහන්නේම මේක. ලංකාවේ වෙන්නේ නැති එක තමයි අහන්නේ. බලන්න past papers එක. මට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. They have to use their common sense also. People will study something relevant to our country, né? That's why we have to focus more on that. No? They are asking questions on what we are not practicing. DDP 3-4 පාරක් කාලා තුන. What to do? That's your luck, right? DDP is, if I ask you the questions under DDP, who has to do the manufacturing of goods?
Seller.
Huh? Seller. Then export clearance? Export clearance? Seller. Export clearance? Seller. Then loading?
Seller.
Contract for carriage?
Seller.
Insurance? Insurance?
Seller.
Seller. Insurance also seller. Unloading? Seller. Right? Import clearance? Seller. Everything seller. ඒක මම වගේක් ලෝකේ වෙනවා හරි අඩුයි. Okay? Right. Any questions? Any questions? Ask me. Any questions? Ask me.
So, so the difference between DPU and DAP is in DPU the unloading cost is also bear, but in under DAP not, isn't it? Or the other way around? I couldn't.
Perfect. DAP delivered at place. DPU එකේ U කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? එතනම ගන්න.
Unloaded part එක.
Unloaded. right?
Okay.
It's unloaded, right?
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Okay.
Right. Now I have given you a question paper. I think it was uploaded, ne? MCQ on Incoterms 2020. This was uploaded. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is uploaded, right? Now you have to do it at home. This is your homework. This is very, very important. We are going to have a special class on 18th, Wednesday. Am I correct? You guys agreed?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Okay, sir.
huh?
Yes, sir.
අපි කරමුද?
Okay, sir.
කරමුද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලෑස්තිද?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So what time?
7 to 9.
Okay.
So 7:30 possible? 7:30 possible? 7:30 possible?
7:30 කියලා කිව්වා නේද? හරි 7:30 possible. I will make a note. Others okay? 7:30?
Okay, sir.
7:30 to 9:30 because you have to come back home also and have a first question yourself, right? Put a wash and then you get ready, right? Can you guys do this one and come ready with the answers? Can we discuss?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Right? එක ලෑස්ති පිට එන්න පුතේ. කරලා අපි it'll take about 20 minutes අපි ටක් ගාලා. I'm not going to discuss everything in detail, but I can give the answers, right? Now, for example, I'll give you one answer. අපි කරමු එකක්. Question number 2. Which of the following will be and I'll give you one clue. You can take all the what do you call this past papers from 2014, past papers from 2014, right? And see what are the questions they have put from Incoterms. All the questions are which I have prepared here, and those are my questions I have uploaded in the IBSL website. When we change our syllabuses from DBF to DABF in 2014, the management has asked me to prepare some study notes and upload certain things to the system. ළමයින්ට දැන් මොකක්ද වෙලා දන්නේ නැහැ නේ. That was the first time we used first question as the MCQ. Right? එතකොට මම මතන questions 35ද 40ද දුන්නා. තාම ඇති ඔයගලන්ගේ system අපේ you can go to IBSL and then you can see international trade. ඔය මගේ questions එක විතරයි තියෙන්නේ 2014 පස්සේ. Right? ඊට පස්සේ බලන්න past papers ටික කොහොමද දාලා දෙන්නේ කියලා වැඩි හරියක් තියෙන මගේ questions ටිකම දන්නයි. එයාට මෑට කරකවන. දැන් ඒ ටික බැලුවා නම් ඔයගන්ට උගල ගොඩ ලකුණු 20ක් කියන්නේ. පොඩි ගණන් නෙමෙයි. එතන ලකුණු 20යි. Incoterm එකෙන් අපි තුමු multiple choice එක නම් කොහොමද තල්ලු කරගන්න බලන්න. 20න් අපි දාගමු 15ක්. මේකට Incoterms 15ක් දාගන්න. 30යි. ගණන් දෙක හදාගත්තා නම් 60යි. ඒ ඇති නේද? 51යි නේ. 45ද 50යිද ඕනේ මොකද? නේ? Definitely you can get through the exam. But you have to do study hard. Now tell me, which of the following will be a requirement under the different Incoterms?
B.
Super. කියන්නකො තියාගේ නම? Fastest finger. Huh?
Jitma.
Huh?
Jitma.
Jitma. It's like fastest fingers. But delivery. Sellers provide the goods in travel-worthy packaging. And first එකත් කරන්න බලමු. Now I am also geared up. ළමයි enthusiastic න අපිත් මේ යනවා. As per Incoterm XW, EXW, which one is not correct? The best thing is, මේ question එක එච්චරම හරි නෑ. හොඳම දේ තමයි යන්නේ. One by one බලන්න හරිද වැරදිද කියලා හිතේ යන්නේ. The first one, is it correct or incorrect? Under this shipping term, the seller provides the goods for collection by the buyer at the seller's own premises. Is it correct or not?
Correct.
It is correct. B,
Correct.
that's also correct. C,
Correct.
they got correct there. Then D is the answer. All are correct. All are correct. Okay. What we are going to answer කරන්න වෙනවා. හරි. එහෙනම් අපි මෙතන නවත්තමු. We meet on 18th. 18th.
Okay, sir.
Can you please don't quit, because I'm going to contact IBSL and ask them whether they are ready for that, because I don't know how we can do it. Don't quit. 18th confirm, right? 18th confirm. You can join at 7:30 and we'll do it till 9:30. Then the next Sunday, I will tell you whether we can do it on every Wednesdays. The shape, right? But how we are going to do it, then let's see. We have targeted the exam in 3rd week of October. Whether we can do it or not is a $1 million question. Forget about it. We will do the syllabus and finish it off, because then there will be 2 batches together, right? Then 3rd batch also will have to start in November. So let's finish the syllabus, right? Okay. Thank you very much.